Hello and welcome again to Inside HMI. Joining us today for an in-depth interview, we have Mr. Joe Leeway. And I failed to mention earlier that Mr. Leeway is HMI's resident specialist.
You can call me Joe, actually.
Joe
Yeah,
is our resident specialist in NLP and Ericksonian hypnosis. And you have been for over 12 years now?
Thanks to George, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing what a little push can do, you know. It's like, go on, get in there and do it. Shut up.
Well, clearly you were ready because you did
Well,
it.
you know, you don't know what you're made of until you sort of leap in there. And it's been kind of like, this is another story, but you know, that's an interesting way of
we'll
learning.
get there. We'll get there. So let's go back to the bubbling brown sugar.
Going back,
Yeah.
So one more time came out from Chicago as well, and it was like, I don't think I'm very good at this, because when you get an agent, typically they're not worried about anything other than if they can fit your profile. So I looked one way, but I'm saying, no, I'm an actor, I don't do that kind of thing. And that, you know, you weren't going to get any money, so I thought I'd better go and do that. So it didn't take long before I was able to weigh it up and think, you know, please, universe, help me. And so I get a phone call, and it's someone saying, Joe. And I go, who's this? And it's like, one of your old college mates, Tom. And I go, Tom, what's up? And he says, we've got a gig in London. And I go, a gig? Because I'd not listened to music in like 10 years. Literally, I was so focused. I mean, I kind of listened to it, but I wasn't, you know, preoccupied with it. And so my friend Tom came down, and John, and a couple of crew, and they had a little band, and this was kind of the punk time. We're talking 79, you know, so everyone was there. In England, it's very, very small. In fact, there was just the one radio station at the time. So if you got on the radio station, you were okay, and if you didn't, you know, forget it. So I was also squatting, because I couldn't afford a place to live. So in London at the time, there were like 100,000 empty cottages. And the press said all squatters were heroin addicts and everything else, and obviously not true. All you had to do was go in there and put a piece of furniture in, and then under squatters' law, they had to take you to court to get you out. And it was a crime. You know, there were hundreds of thousands of houses, and people can't afford to live and everything else. What's going on? So I got part of the squatters movement, and that's all about attitude. You wouldn't get served in the pub or any of that stuff, you know. But, so my mates came down, they ended up living in the squat with me, and I moved out and lived with my girlfriend. And so as that went on, they eventually started to get a few gigs. And another gig, and they started to get rolling. I was very impressed, because they were responsible for their own destiny, which kind of impressed me. They weren't asking an agent, is it okay to do this or whatever, although you do have a booking agent to get you the gig. And they were playing pubs at the time. You know, in London, it's all about a pub, you know, because it's all about community. So you play a pub, and I go and listen to them and everything else. And in the end, I thought, wow, if I tell my agent I've got a gig as a lead singer in a band, I can still keep the agent, go off for 6 months, see what happens. And I never went back, because that's what I did. And I told her, I lied. I said, look, I've got to, there's not a lot happening. I think this would be a good experience to do some singing. And she said, okay, all right then. I've just come out of retirement, especially for you. But, you know, sort of like, if this is going to be useful, then go ahead, and I'll still keep you on my books. And I thought, great. Basically, when I said goodbye, I turned the corner, jumped into a school bus, and I'm driving the bus. You know, that was my job. So I'm driving the band around, and eventually, after 3 months of driving them around, I decided, wow, I'm starting to get used. I was so enthusiastic about being a roadie as well, because I became a roadie. And not knowing much about electronics or what does a roadie do? You know, okay, you sort of plug in the amplifier, you change a guitar string when it breaks, or you clean up, and the whole thing. And you also put your back out, lifting heavy loading, going in and down. Because it's one thing playing in a pub, but when it's in the cellar and you've got, and we'd have names for certain, you know, flight cases. That would be Evil Case, Mr. Evil, and this one would be Bite Your Butt, and this, you know, there'd be certain names
Just
we'd have.
slide it down.
Yeah. So I think we were on a tour with a group called Teardrop Explodes, and they were and Echo and the Bunnymen, and maybe you might, you know, people would know Echo.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
it was a mad, crazy tour, and after that, we found ourselves in Wales, and Tom, the lead singer, said to me, would you like to be, can you play congas? Can I play congas? Are you kidding me? And of course I couldn't play a lick. So he said, yeah. Because how I'd actually impress myself upon the band, just backtrack a wee bit. I mean, why would they even... Because the manager, who's my mate, we were in Greece together, employed me to go and motivate them because I'd just done the S training. So typically when I take on something, I take it on. So when I came out of S, I was flying.
Sure.
I've got to clear this, and we have to, every day we had to tell each other what we liked about them, what we didn't like about them, and the whole thing. And there was energy. Are you really serious about this? I said, what are you talking about? What do you think we're doing? And I say, yeah, but are you willing to do whatever it takes? So I'm into that whole motivation stuff, you know. And from that, being the roadie, being the motivator, and then suddenly one night, when it's the encore, Joe, just jump up on stage with your bongos and start playing. Okay, so I did. But the way we did it back then, we would hand out percussion to the audience. And so there'd be, for an encore with the band was called the Thompson Twins, and it was like a 4-piece, just thrashing guitars. And for an encore, we'd hand out hubcaps and sticks. And we were a political band. We wouldn't sign autographs or any of that stuff. We weren't into any of it, but just the truth and how to change the world and bring into personal politics. So we had an agenda. And but we were boring as well, as far as the newspapers were concerned. That boring Politico band, they are so boring. But I tell you, the following we had, to look at the following, after 2 years we were playing the Lyceum, Hammersmith Odeon, completely broke though, no money.
Wow.
Which is one of those principles, isn't it? If the only money you have is what you earn every day, you're always going to be poor, that rich man, poor man thing. And it was the same thing with us. We had no saving, no investment, no publishing deal, no record deal.
Wow.
Just playing live gigs. And we did, in 1 year, we did 260 gigs.
Wow.
Yeah, staying on people's floors. I'm driving and playing at the same time.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's hard work.
And could I play the bongos?
You did it after that
night.
After
that, yeah. I had some terrible... It was literally, as a musician, I was not a musician. I had to learn from ground one and convince people it was worth waiting for me to learn, because I would be an asset for them. So they did wait. But that learning period was like very, very nervous. We went to, Godley and Cream, they did a song called I'm Not in Love, Don't Forget It. Okay, so they went massive. They were 10cc, Rubber Bullets, all of that stuff. Big 70s band, Well, afterwards, what happens is you make your money and then build a studio. So they built 2 fabulous studios in the UK, Strawberry North and Strawberry South. So when you get the chance, and it was the first gig we ever got, okay, you're doing well, lads, let's take you into the studio. So we got a gig at Strawberry Studios. 4 days. We're squatters, but now we get 4 days of luxury. M&Ms, the whole, everything you can do. And it's the first time, literally we would go into hotels, jumping in the swimming pool and dirty their pools, on that too. We just had nothing but enthusiasm. And those 4 days, everyone was enjoying themselves, and I'm literally pacing around thinking, oh God, I wonder if today I've got to do the little conga piece. Oh no, we don't need you today, Joe. Okay, we're still doing the bass, great. Okay, tomorrow. But I literally was up all night and all day just worrying. I didn't know anything about how to control my state at all or any of that stuff.
Wow.
I just went through hardwire, suffered, and got through it that way. Anyway, I did my first gig at Strawberry Studios. And I was so good that when I came back into the green room, people had been talking and then they were silent. You know that piece? Like they've obviously been talking about how bad you are. Open the door and everyone goes silent. So I had to, cope with that, get that kind of feedback, not let it bother me. I can do this, I can do this. But there are times when I wanted to, just sort of go, what am I thinking? I've got to get into something that I know how to do. Because you know what musicians are like. And I proved you don't have to be, it's not how good a musician you are in order to be successful. That's not what it's about at all. Because there are tons of people who are real musicians, but have not had the experience that I've had.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
So something else is going on there.
That's right.
Yeah.
So then you moved on to...
So then I become established, because I remember that first look when Pete's on the lead guitar looking over going, what the bloody hell's he doing on stage? Aren't you, hey, we don't need you yet, But eventually, after that it was called the No Nukes Tour. And at the time, the women were surrounding the American Air Force Base because Margaret Thatcher had invited the cruise missiles, Ronnie Reagan put cruise missiles into the UK without, and Thatcher put them in without even telling us.
Yeah.
So suddenly the Russians are going, boom, you know, pointing to the UK now. So all the women, so fed up with the men, they went and held hands around the American Air Force Base in Norfolk, and they did it for like a year.
Wow.
Uninterrupted, kept up this vigilance to get the crew. So as a part of that, we did a no nukes tour to get the nukes out of our place. So we did this tour that ran on for about half a year, and we slept on people's. So after that, I was part of the group, I had a say, and I became bossy. So what's the next thing you do? You come off tour, and then you've got to write new material.
That's right.
So I go to Wales because I'm still the roadie as well. You know, I have two hats. So we come off tour. It's okay, Joe, go do the washing up, okay? So I go down to Wales where we're going to write for a month, you know, come up with some stuff. And I get down there and everyone else breaks down. So I'm there with all the equipment on my own for 48 hours. Wow. So what do you think I do?
Took advantage
I pick
of
up
it.
a guitar, I can sort of play D, you know, ding, 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 and I start singing something, you know, and I really get into it. When they come along, I say, oh, I've written a song. And they go, let's have it then, lads, you know. Within an hour, my little ditty had been transformed into a full-blown, you know, piece of music. So suddenly I come from being, you know, doing the sort of like grunty work to starting to get into the full expression. And I remember that first walking out in the field with Tom and going, wow, this is what it feels like when you're really writing and creating, and that. It was just a magical, there are no accidents.
No,
you know,
there are no
success is not an accident,
It
it's meant
is
to
not.
be.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah. So, wow, I had that, if that hadn't have happened, but it did. So,
It
you know,
absolutely
why
did.
even second guess it? It was meant to be. So once that happened, I got elevated, and then we went on and we did a whole bunch of stuff.
All right, we're going to take a break
Okay.
now. It's time for a short break.
Okay.
I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. I can't
I
wait
am
to
as
hear.
well. Right?
Stay tuned, and when we come back, we'll continue our interview with Joe Leeway.
Leap in there, and it's been kind of like, this is another story, but you know, that's an interesting way of
we'll
learning.
get there. We'll get
Yeah.
there. So let's go back to the bubbling brown
Okay,
sugar.
Going back,
Yeah.
So one more time came out from Chicago as well, and it was like, I don't think I'm very good at this, because when you get an agent, typically they're not worried about anything other than if they can fit your profile. So I looked one way, but I'm saying, no, I'm an actor, I don't do that kind of thing. And that, you know, you weren't going to get any money, so I thought I'd better go and do that. So it didn't take long before I was able to weigh it up and think, you know, please, universe, help me. And so I get a phone call, and it's someone saying, Joe. And I go, who's this? And it's like, one of your old college mates, Tom. And I go, Tom, what's up? And he says, we've got a gig in London. And I go, a gig? Because I've not listened to music in
Hello and welcome again to Inside HMI. Joining us today for an in-depth interview, we have Mr. Joe Leeway. And I failed to mention earlier that
like 10 years, literally. I was so focused. I mean, I kind of listened to it, but I wasn't, you know, preoccupied with it. And so my friend Tom came down, and John and a couple of crew, and they had a little band, and this was kind of the punk time. We're talking 79, you know, so everyone was there. In England, it's very, very small. In fact, there was just the one radio station at the time. So if you got on the radio station, you were okay, and if you did,
Mr. Leeway is HMI's resident specialist.
you can call me Joe, actually.
Joe
Yeah,
is
please.
our resident specialist in NLP and Ericksonian hypnosis, and you have been for over 12 years now.
Thanks to George, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It's amazing what a little push can do, you know. It's like, go on, get in there and do it. Shut up.
Well, clearly you were ready because you did it.
Well, you know, you don't know what you're made of until you